Hi everyone, this is what happened to me when I got government housing part 111, and in this video I'm going to start going through the things that I listed that people have said to me and go through them in a bit more detail, but I'm not doing all of them in this video. I'll be doing more in part 112, and the more serious ones will be done in part 112, but I just wanted to start to talk to you about these to try to get you to understand the way I live and what I've been subjected to over the years. And I think it's been pretty serious because I've been on the receiving end of some pretty disgusting behaviour from the Victoria Police and from other public servants, and of course from people in the general public as well. But I think I wanted to emphasize at this point just that this is for your information, and this is a video that I needed to make to try to put some some more context around the story that I'm telling you. So in this video I'm going to follow on from part 110, where I started to tell you about some of the disgusting things that people say to me, and I'm going to go a bit deeper into some of the statements and threats that I mentioned to explain to you all the circumstances in which they were said and all the other details that will help you to understand what it was like from my perspective to be on the receiving end of that sort of thing. But having said that, I still do get these. So when I read out the statements, it's not like I'm reading them out, and it's all over. I get this thing all the time. I got it years ago. I got it while I was dealing with a respondent, and I still get this sort of thing now. So we'll just do another disclaimer. This video is for informational purposes only. In this video, I'll be speaking the truth, my beliefs, and my interpretations of events and things that have been said and done to me. I will verify things where I can. However, the purpose of this video is to simply inform you all of the circumstances in which I live, to make better context of the story that I have been trying to tell you guys about what happened to me when I got government housing. We're going to return to the main story of what happened to me when I got government housing soon, but I just need to get these statements out of the way before we can continue. I'm not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice, and I don't claim to know all of the legalities around the issues that I will raise. There are people who will be able to recognize that what I'm saying is true because they have witnessed this behavior or because they have been on the receiving end of this behavior themselves. Please be aware that I am speaking for myself. And I also urge anyone else with a similar story to come forward. And not to me, that's, you can put up your own videos about it, because I think that would be very helpful if you choose to do so. So the first statement I have to deal with is, I know a few people who want to talk to you. This is an example of the psychological menacing that I get from various people all the time. In this picture, you can see that I've used a police officer, but it's not only the police who say that to me. I've had that from police, other public servants, members of the public, junkies, and even parents from schools that I've been to or that my daughter has been to. People say that to me when I'm at parks, in supermarkets, on walks, and basically everywhere else. There are people saying that to me on an almost daily basis, and when I first moved into government housing, they had already been saying that to me for years before. Sometimes people walk up to me and pretend to befriend me, only to change their demeanour and say, I know a few people who want to talk to you, before walking off. And I normally never see these people again. This means that they've gone out of their way to locate me, make contact with me, and then scare me and psychologically menace me by saying that to me. I haven't been able to get anyone on video doing that yet, and in some ways I can't now because there are people who deliberately try to provoke me so they can get into my videos. And the other thing I wanted to add at this point is that I am aware that I'm putting myself at risk by saying these things. One of the things that interests me, apart from being a whistleblower and telling the truth and exposing corruption and talking about your own personal truth and, you know, the failings of the justice system and the ridiculous behavior of some of the people that work in the justice system, is the way, you know, mental health and the Mental Health Act is used against whistleblowers. People say Australia is a free society, but, you know, I know for a fact that, you know, our allegations of, you know, people being mentally ill is used to discredit people. And I'm aware that some of these things sound really ridiculous, and that means that I'm putting myself at risk because I'm talking about them. So, one thing I wanted to raise just as a side note to this is that when someone does something to you, which is very strange and very disturbing, or maybe a bit out of character, I think that sometimes people think that they can't talk about it because talking about it, you know, just makes them a target, and it may make, you know, the victim look ridiculous when they come forward. And that really is the beauty of the situation from the perspective of the perpetrator. I think that some perpetrators, you know, may deliberately do things that are very strange, not just to induce, you know, some sort of mental response in the victim, but to stop them from talking about it, in the sense that they know that what they're doing is so strange that if it was verbalized, it would make the victim look as though they are mentally ill. That's a topic that I think is not talked about publicly enough. For example, if there was a well-known person who went round to someone's home dressed in a clown suit and stole their DVD player and walked off, and the victim spoke out about that, that victim would be at a huge risk of, you know, being sectioned under the Mental Health Act or just being called crazy and so forth. I think most people would accept that, and obviously most people would understand that. But what I'm saying is that people, even though they may understand that, they don't acknowledge it enough, and they don't accept that that type of tactic may be used more frequently than is acknowledged. And the other thing is that there's not enough public discussion around that tactic of perpetrators against victims. And obviously I'm not talking specifically about, you know, people in clown suits. I just mean metaphorically. It could be any number of things that is used against a victim. But you do need to acknowledge, or I need to make a point, that even though some people may think that, you know, we're going through these things and it may seem quite trivial, or it may seem strange, or I may, you know, put myself out to be judged, you know, clearly I don't care. I've been through so much. I am aware that, you know, I'm putting myself at risk of, you know, being labeled wrong, which is one of the reasons why I tried to video as much as I could when I was dealing with a respondent. But you know, if people are aware of that sort of tactic being used, or if it's being used against them, that is something that that needs to be talked about much, much more often. I can see that gang stalking is talked about more often these days, but not the sort of behavior that, victim shames the person to the point where they feel like they will be wrongly judged as being mentally ill if they come forward and label that. I think that's, a huge problem in society, especially, in Victoria, with the way that people are pounced on, and the popularity of talking about mental health, or maybe even people falling into or gaslighting others, or even gaslighting themselves, out of believing that they have in fact been a victim, because some things may be too hard to face. And on the subject of gang stalking, I think that the things that I'll be describing in this video show that I have been gang stalked by some members of the Victoria Police. Okay, so now we'll go on to the next statement. That's, we should send some people round. And this one always gets me because of the implications of what is being said. The idea that some police have, that they can talk their way out of anything and can intimidate anyone out of thinking something that they don't want them to think, is really offensive and really disturbing. It's also indicative of a cultural problem in the Victoria Police, where some officers are so blasé about interfering in other people's lives that they get to a point where they can't separate personal and public space and their own opinions with police work. There are a few videos on social media about the police using their position in the police force to exact revenge on people because of issues that they have had in their personal lives. And I believe that we should send some people round is related to that, at least in my case, because it's always said for my benefit. I've never had a police officer say that to me while at a police station or on a 000 call. It's always some sort of menacing statement that an on-duty or off-duty police officer makes within my earshot to scare me and to intimidate me. The next one is, we'll have to work out what we're going to do about her. And this statement is very similar to the last, in that it has been said to me by police officers both in uniform and off duty, and that it is designed to scare and intimidate me. For example, if I walk past a police station and police standing on the footpath talk about me and state, we'll have to work out what we're going to do about her, it's menacing behaviour. It's also offensive because I'm frequently talked about by the police as if I have done something wrong, or as if I have committed a crime, when I haven't done anything. And this goes back to what I've been saying about some police not being able to separate fact from fantasy, and about some people in the justice system being gullible and believing everything that their colleagues tell them. Specifically, what I mean is that I believe there are some police who have personal vendettas against me, who make things up about me, and other police who believe what those police are saying. The effect of that gullibility is that there are a group of police who believe they are justified in threatening and menacing behaviour. This means that I'm suffering because of the failure of some police to check their facts. And the other issue I wanted to repeat is that most of the time, these threats are coming from police that I have never met personally or professionally. So once again, the threat is compounded with the confusion that I feel about how the hell these officers can identify me on site when I don't know who they are. The next statement is, that's what you get for being rude. Once again, I believe this statement is indicative of a cultural problem within the Victoria Police. This statement indicates that the police expect people to butter them up or to stroke their egos to get them to do their job. The police have said that to me in many different ways over the years, and it was particularly offensive when I was going through the court process, when I was dealing with the respondent, because I was dealing with being assaulted, with living in poverty, and I was dealing with the deaths that had occurred at the block. And I had police implying that I should somehow be nicer to them in order to get them to go through the process of doing their job. The fact is that that attitude is corrupt, because expecting people to stroke their ego is a form of bribery. But it seems to me that some police are so used to making those demands on people that they are incapable of recognizing that. And that also goes hand in hand with the next statement: you should have been nice to us, which is very similar. However, there is a veiled implication of punishment in this statement. The implication in the context that it was said to me was that I was being punished for not being nice enough to the police. In other words, they would have done their job properly or assisted me if I had been nice to them, or at least nice in their perceptions. This is clearly bribery and an indication of a morally corrupt officer. And it's also an indication that there is insufficient accountability in the police force. I believe that if Victoria police officers were held accountable for their behaviour, they wouldn't say things like that. So it is effectively an indication of lazy management as well.